Welcome to another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dr. Dave Peltz, and along with me is my esteemed colleague, Dr. Joe Hamlett. How are you doing today, Dr. Joe?
I'm doing pretty good, Dr. Dave.
Most excellent. And today we have a very special guest speaker. Dr. Sandra Bryant has joined us, one of my esteemed colleagues. Uh, Love to have you here. Welcome to the show, Sandra. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you. I appreciate the invitation.
Excellent, excellent. So before we jump into our topic today, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Okay, the short version.
The short version,
I'm
yeah.
the youngest. I'm the youngest of five, only living family member in my clan right now. I have a couple of cousins, but in my immediate family, come from a band of teachers and entrepreneurs that guided a lot of what I ended up doing now. I resisted teaching for about 25 years, and I was in government service. I worked for four governors here in Virginia, started as a White House fellow in the
Wow.
Carter administration, and I got
Wow.
through second Bush,
Okay.
through 2 years of his term before I needed to come home because I had sick family members. And as the youngest, that's what we do. And loved it. Still involved in it a little bit. Not going to talk about that. And then got into teaching. When Governor Wilder ran out of money here in Virginia, he called me in his office. He said, Sandra, where's my money? And I said, well, if your predecessor will tell me it's okay to tell you, then I will. But we both know that I can't. So you're going to fire me. And I know it. And it's okay because that's what we do. I go, but my team has already secured employment elsewhere. And he goes, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to go traveling with my granny.
Mm.
He wants to go to the Grand Canyon. And I don't think you quite understand that you've got about 8 years worth of compensatory leave to pay me. And as a result, you're not going to be able to strike me one check for that amount because then I'll have to go to Wavy on your side and say, hey, he's got a $200 billion shortfall, but he's cutting me a check for how much money? So every 2 weeks will be fine. And then I left.
Wow.
Well, thank you for that.
From there, I came home, took care of Granny and my grandpa and my dad, and then ventured into, okay, what am I going to do next? And from there, I went to teaching. I had to get a medical physical to keep my health insurance. So I talked to my kindergarten buddy, Bascom, and I said, hey, look, I got to do this physical. Don't you want to have yours done too? And he goes, no. I just went, okay. So I talked to his wife. She said yes. I got through the physical just great. He was rolled into a quadruple bypass.
Oh, goodness.
So I told him,
Wow.
hey, look, I got your classes. I don't know what it is, but I'll figure it out. And that's where my teaching began. I
Oh,
have
wow.
taught at the graduate level for a very long time, primarily at Regent. Taught in their undergrad program as well. Left there, moved from teaching into the executive director of their DC campus. That was an idea at that point, had not broken ground yet, had not gotten state bonds to pay for it, had not gotten approval to build a building on this triangular shaped piece of land in Old Town Alexandria.
Wow.
Yeah. So got the bonds, had to sue the state, but oh well. Got the land approved, built the building. The building was open for 6 years. 3 of those years we were profitable. And I was called back to the main campus and had a great time doing that. From there, went into teaching at traditional institutions and for-profit institutions, and don't see there's very much difference. There is a bias for the for-profits that people think it's not rigorous, but I'm going to tell you, how can you do an MBA class in 5 weeks and it not be rigorous?
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it. And the same material is covered and the students step up. So that's the important part to share about that. From there, I went here, there, and everywhere and traveled, lectured in Oxford, which is how I met Dr. Dave.
Wow.
And still go back. It's coming back to me. I do the London School of Business and Economics the first week in December. I am typically at Oxford and Cambridge now. And I'm working more in the business communication and entrepreneurship area than I have in the past. To get an MBA from Oxford, you have to have a business. It has to be profitable for 3 years before you can apply.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Okay.
So they want serious people.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's go ahead and thank
Okay.
you for your introduction. Unfortunately, I can't hold a candle to that.
No,
I've been
pretty
fortunate.
impressive.
Yes,
I've been
yes.
fortunate.
So we'd like to thank our viewers and listeners for joining us on another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast, your personal, professional, and career development podcast. And today's topic is learning opportunities. So we were discussing offline that there are so many opportunities for employees and people in general but we're just not a lot of them are not aware of it. So we're going to discuss some of the possible opportunities to
Mm-hmm.
learning opportunities in the workplace, outside the workplace. So what are your thoughts on this? We'll go to Joe for a minute. Joe, what are your thoughts on learning opportunities?
No, you hit it right on the head. The point or the fact that a lot of people are not aware of the opportunities that are available to them as employees or outside of work. For instance, just for me as an example, I worked for an employer years ago while I was working on my doctorate, and they had a reimbursement program for people to go to school and get reimbursed, and we had about 3,000 employees, but only about 45 or 50 people were actually using the
Mm-hmm.
benefit. And I thought, I was trying to spread the word as much as I could, but it really amazed me that there was really money on the table, and nobody was taking advantage of it. And Dave is aware of this too. Even in the military,
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
we had tuition assistance, GI
Mm-hmm.
Bill, and even me, my long career, I didn't start to use my benefits until almost my 20th year in the
Wow.
military. Yeah, I mean, I used it one time before for one class, but that was it. And there's
Mm-hmm.
again money on the table that nobody takes advantage of. So
Mm-hmm.
those are two examples, but there are other organizations that have reimbursements, or they offer in-house training where you can get certifications and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And people in some cases just aren't aware of it, and then in other cases, what I learned is people think, okay, well, this is a great job. I'm where I want to be. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
to worry about the future as far as
Right.
advancing my career or moving to another career. And so a lot of people feel their confidence in where they are at that time, and it doesn't change until the organization restructures,
Mm-hmm.
downsizes, and then it becomes an issue for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. I go I call them my babies. I used to call them my chickens and they got offended. So my babies, because I have dual enrollment, I have special needs, I have community college students. My students are 16 to 70.
Wow.
So
Okay.
the younger end of that are working at organizations that will pay for them to go to school as long as the classes are related to what they may do on
Right.
their job, and
Yeah.
they don't know.
Mhm.
I have a gentleman who has been working at Starbucks for 12 years, never knew they had a tuition program.
Oh,
I
wow.
never knew that he could go to Starbucks University, which is University of Arizona, for free online.
Wow.
Now,
Wow.
there are stipulations, B or better.
Mhm.
They have to meet a certain GPA. But what's going to stop you from doing that when you know that it's going to bring you somewhere else?
Right.
If their GPA is a certain level at Starbucks, and Chick-fil-A has the same kind of a program, but not a college in particular, they can move into management training program. get my own store. Why not?
Yep.
Right.
McDonald's doesn't do as much tuition reimbursement as they used to, but they still have that management training program. And students don't get it. The other side of that is within the college environment, there are all kinds of certificate programs, just like you mentioned, Dr. Joe, that they don't take advantage of that are
Right.
free.
Yeah.
You know, I want to get my Microsoft Office certification because maybe I might need to do that for my IT degree. Why not? You can get it at the college. You're going to
Right.
take all the prep classes necessary. The only thing you can't do is sit for the exam at the college. Why not?
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Missed
Some of the
opportunities.
yeah,
All missed.
some of the folks I talk to, they say that, well, you know, some of the courses are not in the degree program. The degree itself is related to their job, but some of the courses are not.
Right.
And they think that those aren't going to be covered. And I have to remind them, they've approved the degree. They don't have to approve each class. They've approved
Right.
the
Yep.
degree because they
Right.
understand that, you know, the first 2 years you're getting your core curriculum out of the way. You know, and that's
Correct.
part of getting that degree that they approved, air quotes. And so yeah, they're military. I did some military transition briefings last year, several of them, and a lot of the military members, more people are getting degrees now before they get out,
Right.
and they're enlisted, which was unheard of in when Joe
Right.
and I were in, you
Right.
know, and so now you're having more educated people come out of the military enlisted ranks, and they don't know where to start. A lot of them don't know where to begin. They've got this degree, they've got this experience, but they're not sure what to do or how to utilize it. And the military's become very good at this about reimbursing for certifications. There are many people that are coming out with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 certifications, industry certifications, anywhere from Six Sigma to Lean to IT certs. And
Right.
they're like,
Yep.
they're lost. They understand how to learn, they've applied it in the workplace, but they don't know how to transition out into and make it applicable to the workplace.
Correct.
So where I was going with this was to piggyback off what Joe said and what you had mentioned, that there are certification programs, there are training programs, whether it's, you know, maybe it's up and coming managers, or you know, get certified in this, or you know, go to these classes, these safety classes, you know, and that's part of their job, but it does account for something.
It does. And what I think is being missed is nobody's really connecting the dots for these folks to help them
Right. Yep.
understand
Yep.
where this can take them.
Right.
And
Exactly.
with my age group, my younger age group, unless I can connect the dots so they see themselves in a particular path, then they're never going to do it.
Yeah.
But they do. Once you sit down and explain it to them, or show them how the steps build together to fill the puzzle, then they're with you.
Right, I agree. And it really does come down to having that kind of conversation with those individuals, because a lot of times, again, people can't see beyond what they're doing today. So for them to, you know, help them be able to paint that picture of what the future looks like. And that's why I say, when I go back to what I said earlier, when I talk to people, and again, they've been in this organization for a lot of years, been doing the same job, and they really don't even consider the next level, what, you know, going in maybe again into a leadership role or something like that. And it's not until you start to help paint that picture for them, so they can visualize, okay, yeah, you're right, maybe I can go to that next level. And then you can start to help them figure out, okay, how are you going to get there? And then we start looking at the whether it's the organization management training program, or outside of that, and maybe start working on a business degree or management or leadership degree. But it really starts with having that conversation with them and helping them connect the dots, like you said, to what the potential could be, where they could end
And a
up.
lot of people in the workplace don't realize that, you know, if they're in one job and they want to go into another area within the company, that they can take classes and certifications
Right.
and trainings for
Yes,
those.
they can.
And they don't realize that. They think that, well, if I do that, I'm going to upset my manager, or I'm going to upset the team, or I'm going to upset someone, or they just don't know because it's not in their current line of work. Well, fine, I'm in IT, finance isn't part of it, but I really want to be in finance. Take the finance trainings. You know, you can do
Why
that.
not?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, but
especially if they're at your workplace and they're free. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, there's so many things that are out in the community around you that are free that can help your knowledge, give you experience. And whether it's an organizational meeting or a workshop or a conference or whatever, go learn. It's
well,
only
but
going to help you.
but I think Dave made a good point that in some organizations, some
You're
managers, if
true.
you start to look at other things, that then you're considered not a team player, and oh,
Yes,
you're
you're
just
correct.
trying to get out of here. So I mean, that's a great idea, but at the same time, we have to be cognizant of
Hmm.
where you are in
Yeah.
your
Workplace
organization, what
culture.
Yeah.
organization you work for. Yeah, that all
Yeah,
that.
you do. You do
It,
have to do that. But it's unfortunate
It is. It absolutely
that
is.
you have to hide
Yeah.
your ambitions and desires
right.
to appease someone else. Because just like our PhD degrees intimidate the heck out of folks,
Absolutely. Yeah.
no, it's no different
Right. Yeah.
that you want to go acquire some additional information and
Mhm.
knowledge. And unfortunately, in the world in which we live in now, there is no getting around that. Once they're
Right.
intimidated, they are intimidated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some companies and corporations and industries really appreciate that sort of knowledge level and
Hmm.
experience level and expertise, and some organizations and workplace cultures are
That's
feel
true.
threatened by it, and it's just
Yeah.
understanding who to talk to within those organizations
Hmm.
so you can have that conversation without fear of reprisal or anything like that. So
Absolutely.
um
Absolutely.
yeah.
Worked for a lot of those. Won't go
Yeah.
back.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And going back to the students,
Hmm.
I was talking, I talked to, my students, and a lot of them actually come back to me later and say, do kind of a check-in and say, we talk and see how they're doing, and they've delayed going to that next step, whether it's that last class to get the degree, or it's their next degree to start their next degree, or to start their next training or their next certification. And before they know it, a year or two has gone by, and during that time they could have had it completed or several things completed. So
Right.
it's that realization that that delay sometimes is prohibitive to their career advancement, because if they would have just done it, maybe taken a break but then gone back and then completed it, they'd already be ready for that promotion or that lateral or that advancement or that next opportunity.
Right.
Yeah. I also
You,
with
Sandra, you're breaking up just a little bit.
uh,
Okay, sorry about that, folks. We had a little technical difficulty there. Um, there we go. Sandra's coming back. Happens from time to time. Like we mentioned, we record this, little to no editing, things happen, so it's all good. Welcome back, Dr. Bryant. We thought you had enough of us.
No,
Yeah.
no, no. It's the fiber optic cable that's being installed.
Oh,
And they
Uh,
don't tell us about it. It just
mm,
kind of happens.
got it.
So I
Yeah.
have unstable internet, and it's like, oh,
Wow.
that's lovely. Um, didn't happen all the way through COVID, but I
yeah.
guess it's happening now. We won't get there.
Right.
And
Anyway,
the
what I
results
was
of your
saying
final
is,
exam are
anyway, the what I was trying to say is that the redirect is also important,
Mhm.
where you start down one career path and one degree program, and you realize
Yeah.
this is not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's no harm in the first couple of years to just try different classes and find
Yeah.
your niche.
yeah,
Yeah.
But if you don't try, you can't find it.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not gonna, pop in your head like I dream a genie. It's just not. So, you have to try. You got to get out there and do something
Mhm.
in order to see where that passion lies and that question that you want to answer.
Yeah, and
Because
sometimes that's just having a
all of it is.
conversation with peers or
Mm-hmm.
colleagues,
Yeah.
mentors, coaches, trusted colleagues, just to understand what those types of courses or that type of degree or
Mm-hmm.
that type of training is
Mm-hmm.
involved with. Where
Yeah,
can that take you? What does it involve? Are you going to like doing that
exactly.
training? I told my son, completed his bachelor's degree. It took a little bit longer than he wanted to. There were some hiccups with the military approving courses and stuff. But when
Mm-hmm.
he got done, he said, I don't want to go back to school. And I said, that's fine. You've got your bachelor's degree. And then several months ago, he said, Dad, I'm starting my master's program.
Very
he goes,
good.
and I said, so what changed your mind? And he goes, I just want to do it. And then he realized after talking with me that, the undergraduate, there's some work. There's classes that you don't want to take necessarily that are not your favorites. They're getting you that rounded knowledge. But to this day, my master's degree was still one of my favorite degrees because that's like everything you wanted in your bachelor's program, but now you get even more of that, the good stuff in the master's program.
Mm-hmm.
And you tend to do very well in that because it's something that you really wanted to do. You're starting to get more into the nuts and bolts of it. And
Right.
he did really well. So, and a lot of folks don't understand that when you're doing something that you enjoy or learning about something you enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot more pleasant, it's a lot more enjoyable, and a lot more gratifying.
You're
Yeah,
right.
and that's what happened to my son too. He started down the path of this major, and then within a few classes, a year, no, I don't want that major. So he actually changed his major 3 times before he finished. But and we were okay with that because we would rather him, do something he enjoys
Mm-hmm.
rather than doing something that maybe we thought he should do or that initially he thought was okay. But and so now he's in that field where he wanted to be because he took the time. It took him a little bit extra time to graduate, like Dave said, his son. But now he's doing exactly what he wants to do.
Yeah.
So I just like you said, Dr. Bryant, it may take a little bit longer. You might
Mm-hmm.
try it, but if you realize this is not the path for me, that's the time to say, okay, I'm going to
It's
switch
okay. Yeah.
lanes
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't make any sense to get that degree that sits on the wall and then you never apply it, you never
You never
use
use
it,
it.
or
Yeah.
you. So that's a again, it may take you a little extra time, a little extra money,
Mm-hmm.
but figure it out before you again walk across that stage with
Oh,
a degree that
absolutely.
you didn't want or
Yeah,
that you're not going to
absolutely.
use. So I think that's very important as well.
I think so too. And I think we have to give ourselves a grace
Yeah,
to try and, oh, this isn't for me, and not try. I
right,
bring into my
absolutely.
classes different sets of speakers. The one class nobody wants to take is public speaking. Nobody wants to take that
That and
class.
statistics.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So, what I try to explain to them is that nobody really has a goal to be a talking head or to be a reader like the news people. I
Right.
go, no, I bring in a sportscaster, a media person, and an investigator, and a public relations person to come in and talk to the class. They're going to do exactly what you're doing here on this podcast, which I think is absolutely fabulous. And they say, this was not my chosen field.
Right. Yep.
I got a business degree. And
Right.
then I'm sitting in an office counting stuff. And it's like, I can't, I am a football player. I love football. Now I'm the lead sportscaster
Yeah.
in a small market.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great. So, how did you make that shift? I got a master's in communication because I needed to know the nuts and bolts that I didn't get from my undergrad degree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And some other people just because they happen to be in the right place at the right time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it also gives you hope, and it gives you someone else's story to kind of hold on to as you're making your journey as well.
And I was just going to say that that's a great idea that you bring in different speakers with
Mm-hmm.
different backgrounds and then have them share that story. I think that's very
Yeah,
powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
because when people can see maybe themselves and someone else that they may not have imagined
Mm-hmm.
or thought could be there, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's very helpful.
Oh
And
yeah,
that's yeah.
it's a good thing. It's just like I brought the young lady who writes the speeches for the NATO office in Norfolk.
Okay.
She's a speechwriter.
Wow.
Wow.
So what degree does she have? Business, international relations. Okay. It wasn't communication.
Right,
Right.
right, right.
And it
Yeah.
wasn't public speaking. Okay. But that's what she does.
Mhm.
She's
Right.
a good
Yeah.
writer.
Yeah.
We have people that are good writers.
It,
There are jobs for good writers,
Right.
so it's kind of bridging that gap.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when you said that, that reminded me, and I think I've mentioned this on a couple other shows, that there was a comedian several years ago who said, um, the thing that people fear most is public speaking. They'd rather die than publicly speaking. It's like, how can you rather be dead than just talk in front of people?
Absolutely. But people, I mean, they're terrified. Okay, let's
Yeah.
just be honest. In my classes, I've delivered 2 sets of twins and 3 outliers. So
Wow.
that's 3 additional babies. Now,
Wow.
am I a nurse? No. Yeah, I've watched Little House on the Prairie and I've watched all the, medical shows, but I am not qualified to deliver a baby at all. But
Right.
my students and myself and the mother, we got through it.
Wow.
So, and how did these ladies end up in labor? My final public speaking speech.
Well,
And the
that
babies
says a
came
lot.
long before security for the building and EMS.
Yeah.
And the other students needed to see
Yeah.
what they're doing. We're not going to talk about that.
So we got a couple minutes.
I was just going to say, I didn't feel like I wanted to die before public speaking, but in high school, I did fail public speaking the first time. We had to do like 7 or 8 speeches. I think I did one initially, and that was it. And so again, that fear just overcame me. Failed the class. Had to take it again to actually graduate high school. So. And now I do speak like even on Friday in front of a group, and then prior to that. So yeah, even though that's not my chosen profession, there are times, and even in my military career, especially toward the end of the career, I had to do a lot of speaking. Yeah. So even though that wasn't my most comfortable class or the thing I enjoyed the most, I have had to learn how to adapt and to use it and to polish it and make it better. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I didn't have that fear that I wanted to die, but public speaking was a challenge for me, though.
Okay.
It really was.
I only have one public speaking fear. When I have to lecture a lecture at church, reading scripture, and it's Old Testament with all those names. They all come out with Latin with a little Spanish twist. But I always have my amen corner in the front row, and they're going, "That's okay, baby. You did real good."
Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, I tell people that, that have concerns about speaking in front of other people or interviewing. You do it all day long. You just don't realize it. You're talking to people all day long. You're asking and answering questions. It's no different. It's just a conversation. So with that, Dr. Bryant, do you have any quick final thoughts before we close out the show?
Yeah, 2 things. 1, continue searching, looking, asking, finding answers. And 2nd, give it a good try. Things may not be as intuitive as you think they are. Websites are crazy. Just do it. Go find what you need. Talk to people in decision-making positions who can help you, not the guy you work standing next to in fast food. Okay? Because that person may do it better than you and get to that end and that scholarship that you were looking for.
Yeah.
Okay? Just do it, in other words.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And Dr. Joe, any final thoughts?
I just want to go back to where we kind of started this whole thing with all the learning opportunities that are out there. I think, again, referring to what Dr. Bryant said is about the searching piece. Once you start down that rabbit hole, you'll understand that there's a lot of learning opportunities, free training out there, in addition to what your organization may have to offer. But start that search. Again, you'll be amazed at what you may already be qualified for, what you may be able to, apply to something in training or a degree right now. So yeah, just start that journey and you'll definitely find those opportunities if you're really looking for them.
Excellent. Well, I don't have anything else to add. That was you all summed it up very excellently. So I'm just going to leave it at that. We'd like to thank all of our viewers and listeners for joining us for another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast, your personal, professional, and career development podcast. We'd like to thank our very special guest, Dr. Sandra Bryant, for joining us today. If you want to reach out to her, her contact information is below or to the side or up above, however Dr. Joe puts it together this week. And we just want to thank you all again for joining us. And we'd like to ask you to keep on being your not so ordinary you.
Well done.